Black Panther has now just unseated Love and Basketball as my favorite movie of all time. Yeah. That's pretty impressive. Hey guys, it's Ijoma. I've never made a reaction video before, so this is far out of my comfort zone, but Black Panther just stirred up so much for me. It's like so many emotions, so many thoughts that I had to record a video and talk about it. This video is going to be about 4 different themes that came up in Black Panther that have been weighing on my spirit. There's gonna be some spoilers, obviously, so if you haven't yet seen the movie, go and get your entire freaking life and go and watch it. If this is your first time on my channel and anything that I say resonates with you, definitely make sure that you hit that subscribe button. Although a lot of my content in the past has been beauty and hair related, I would love to start sharing my thoughts and opinions on the way the world works. So let us get started. I'm like already about to start crying and I haven't even started talking. Is that deep? Okay, so I saw Black Panther now like 36 hours ago. I saw it Thursday at 7 p.m. and it was every single thing and beyond. I need to like not be clapping, but that's how I feel because it's so bomb. So there are 4 different themes that came up for me in Black Panther. The internal conflict of people with both African and African American identity, how the movie deals with gender and love. The third thing is how the movie deals with the impact of colonization and Black-white race relations. And the last thing I want to talk about is Africa past and Africa future. And let go. The first thing that like really stuck out to me about the movie is the internal conflict of Eric Killmonger, aka Njideka. So I like was very close to tears at several parts of the movie, but one part that really got me was when Killmonger like was about to kill Claus. He reveals that he's from Wakanda and Claus is like, I just thought you were a crazy American. And I cannot tell you the number of times I have felt like I had needed to prove to people that I was African, that I was Nigerian. So a little bit of background about myself. So I was born in Nigeria. I came to the US when I was 2. So I've lived in America my entire life. So I sound like this, like an American, but I was raised in a Nigerian household. I identify more with Nigerian culture than I do with American culture, but the outside world like rarely ever sees that. So whenever I'm in an Uber with Jonathan, my husband, who's from Kenya and who grew up in Kenya and sounds like he's Kenyan, without fail, the conversation will go like this, especially if the driver is African. Driver will be driving like, hey, where you from, man? And Jonathan will look at me because he knows I'm about to answer and I will say, I'm from Nigeria and he's from Kenya. And the driver, without fail, 9 times out of 10 will say, you don't look Nigerian. And that just really kills me. As someone who's a first-generation immigrant in America, I'm like never Black enough and I'm never African enough. And Killmonger struggle with that. Like, you know, how come all y'all Africans like aren't doing anything to help Black people? Like sometimes I really feel that way. Whenever I come across like Africans who are like, oh, Black people just need to work harder, I'm like, no, you don't get it. Like that's just like not what it is. Or Africans who like voted for Trump, like how could you possibly betray our people? And then there are Black people who like don't really understand anything about Africa and don't understand the continent. Been instilled with like Western tropes of like what it means to be African and thinking all of us like live in huts and are pirates and like aren't developed nations. Like there's just so much like disparity between the 2 cultures, and to be someone who kind of like lives at the border of that is really tough. And so I like really understood Killmonger's struggle with being raised in America, but obviously being raised with some knowledge of Wakanda and being raised with a desire to visit Wakanda and not being given that opportunity. I felt for him, like he wanted to go back, he wanted to see his country, he wanted to see where he's from, he wanted to understand where he was from, but he also had a lot of questions about why his people were not doing anything for the other group of people who he really identified with. Someone who has grown up like at the intersection of both cultures, like I sometimes feel like neither side really gets each other, and then I also feel like I don't belong in either one. Whew, I just got emotional. The second thing that I wanted to talk about, how the movie dealt with women and love. First of all, it was so bomb that the King's Protectors, the Dora Milaje, were all women, like, but we already knew that that was the case, so you know, I'm not gonna harp too much on that. But I feel like in a lot of other Marvel movies, women actually have like really tangential roles and like don't really matter. I feel like the interesting thing about Black Panther having strong female roles, it's actually contradictory to a lot of African cultural practices where women actually don't have a voice. Still today, in some villages, in my village, men are the ones who make the decisions, and there's a women's meeting, but they don't really have power and autonomy. So to have a movie depict women as also leaders. You know, there are women on the Council of Elders. The Queen, T'Chaka's wife, Angela Bassett, I don't even remember her name, but she had a voice. She had a say in the movie, and so I just think it was really powerful, and it's kind of like juxtaposition between what is the case in Africa right now, which is that women often aren't heard, aren't seen, don't have a lot of autonomy, and this movie portraying the power and strength of women. In the battle scene, when all the Dora Milaje kind of like formed the triangle against Killmonger, like that was such epicness. We grouped together, we band together, and we fight together. That was super bomb. Sort of related to how the movie treated women, the two romantic relationships that played out on screen kind of like really like tore my heart apart because they were done so beautifully. So when T'Challa is like pursuing Nakia, obviously, you know, he's like checking out her butt and stuff because she's cute, but what was most important was that he recognized that she had a skill and he recognized that she had a passion. At the very end, he didn't say, come and be my wife and be my queen and sit next to me and like help me rule. He said, come and stay with me and I will create an opportunity for you. So he created that extra facility in Oakland, knowing it was important for her to do outreach, to do women's empowerment. He created an opportunity for her to continue her passion. I feel like so often, like, men will see bomb boss fly women and recognize their fierceness, but want to like control that or want to shift those energies into some way that benefit him. But what a man should do is, if you see that a woman has a passion and you love that about her, like, you should do everything in your power to create opportunities for your woman to continue to pursue her passions. Like, why wouldn't you want your woman to pursue her passion? Like, why would you want to stifle that? Like, why would you want to just sit her down and not have her be great? Like, if she's great, you should make opportunities to help her continue to be great. And then the other relationship that really killed me, the scene where Okoye was fighting W'Kabi, you know, at the very end, and he's like, would you actually kill me, my love? And she's like, for Wakanda, without a doubt. Listen, I just knew he was gonna kill her, because whenever in the history of life or a movie has a man put down his ego for love? Never. Women are always sacrificing whatever they want for love, for the person they love, but men never do that, and they're never depicted as doing that. But W'Kabi did. He said, you ain't worth killing. I love you. I'm going to put my weapon down. And what was super powerful about that scene is when he dropped his sword, every other man dropped their sword. Oh, it was so good. It was like all the men were surrendering to the women. Yes, the Jabari tribe was also fighting too, but it was like all of W'Kabi's people kind of like were surrendering to the Dora Milaje women, and that was like really, really powerful. I thought the movie did a really good job of depicting strong African women in a way that is rarely ever done, and also depicting very egalitarian relationships, and that's also something that rarely happens in movies, and Black movies, and especially in African movies. So the third theme that I really liked in Black Panther was how the people of Wakanda thought about white people. So there were two scenes that were really funny, like that I laughed. So when Shuri calls Agent Ross colonizer, like I died. Like that was so funny. And he was like, wait, that's not my name. She was like, I know who you are, but you're still colonizer. Like, that was amazing. When Nakia had brought T'Challa's sister and his mom to the Jabari people for help, and Agent Ross was there and he was trying to talk, and the Jabari guy was like, ho, 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 ho. Like, to shut him up. It's like, you are in our land, don't speak, you don't have any control here, you don't have any power here. So I feel like the movie did a really good job of like putting white people in their place. You know, over the past like 10 years of my life, I've had extensive experience with white people. I went to high school with the kind of rich white people who drove to school in Audis and Porsches. I have extended family members who are white. So in general, like, I'm cool with white people, but in recent times, I have felt myself becoming increasingly angry towards white people. And I think that what Black Panther showed is that you can recognize the damage and the destruction that white people have caused to Africa and to the African diaspora without hating them. Even though Shuri called Agent Ross colonizer, like, she still healed him. So she didn't like let him just die. So she still extended the kind of sympathy and love that we're supposed to have for our fellow humans and our fellow man to him, while also acknowledging the hurt and the damage that him and his people had caused around the world. So I felt like that was empowering for me. You can definitely recognize and accept and acknowledge all of the destructive things that white people have done since the history of time, but that doesn't mean that you have to hate them, and that doesn't mean that you have to treat them any differently than you would a person who looks like you. The last thing that Black Panther I think did a really, really good job with is focusing on the traditions and the cultural practices of Africa. So Africa's past, like super important. Ancestors are super important in a lot of African cultures. Honoring your ancestors is super important. Another part of the movie that I felt was powerful was when T'Challa was becoming the Black Panther and he kind of like woke up and saw his dad and the other Black Panthers, and he respectfully told his dad that he was wrong and that he did something wrong. And that conversation never happens in African families. Like, your parents can't be wrong. Like, what? Your parents can do something so wrong, but who are you to say like you're wrong? And maybe he wouldn't have said that to his dad if he had been alive. Who knows? But I thought that it was important that Black Panther showed that, okay, yes, even in African cultures, although we honor our ancestors, that doesn't mean that everything that they do has been right. And that doesn't mean that we can't do things differently. But we still have to honor and respect them. I also thought that movie like maintained the integrity of African culture in the dance. Like this, you know, during the crowning ceremony, this is giving me all the vibes. The costumes, like Ruth Carter did an amazing, amazing job dressing everyone. All the characters' costumes were representative of like the diversity of Africa. I feel like there wasn't that much Northern Africa influence like in the movie, but if I'm wrong, feel free to let me know down below. Even though the movie did a good job of like anchoring itself on African traditions and African past, I feel like it revealed a potential future of Africa that was so promising. One of the really visually appealing things to me was all of the infrastructure of Wakanda. Not so much like that there were trains and whatever, but the actual buildings had like African designs on them. Like that was so cool. Like what if we built buildings in Africa that incorporated our patterns and our textiles and our prints and didn't just look like buildings in the West? Like that would be fire. I think that that would be so awesome. More importantly, the unity that was shown across all the tribes, I feel like is something that is really lacking in Africa. That is like the one thing that will help Africa actually like become a real life Wakanda and become strong in and of itself. That there's too much division within countries, across countries. There's just too much focus on like what tribe we are and not enough focus on like who we are as a collective. And Black Panther and its depiction of Wakanda and its depiction of collaboration and unity between the various different tribes of Wakanda, I feel like spread that message in a very powerful way. So those are my thoughts. Those are all of my thoughts on Black Panther and its impact on me. If you enjoyed the movie, definitely let me know down below. I want to know what your favorite part was. If there's anything that the movie stirred up for you, also let me know. Like, let's chat about it. I definitely need to see it again, like 3 more times. If you haven't seen Black Panther, again, go and get your entire life. And yeah, if you like this video, subscribe, like it, and leave me a comment down below. I'll check y'all in the next video. Thanks, y'all. Bye. You know, I'm now gonna have to include that. What? I'm gonna include that as my blooper. What?